was dreaming all through the night. A smiling sun hangs on a cardboard sky, where the future got lost but never learned to die. Unseen visions burning bright, Bradbury's ghost on SL tonight. Open the page, let the wonder ignite. Welcome to Exiles.
Good evening, guardians of forbidden pages, and welcome to SL Tonight, where we resurrect the vanished ghosts of Ray Bradbury's masterpiece, The Illustrated Man. I'm Felix Zabesky, your host for Bradbury's Unseen Visions, The Illustrated Man's Hidden Tale, a series that burns away censorship to reveal the suppressed flames of this 1951 collection. Ray Bradbury, the Waukegan dreamer who feared book burnings, was 31 when he wrote these stories, typing in a UCLA library where Marguerite worked and her daughter slept. World War II had ended, but McCarthyism raged, and Bradbury saw parallels to Fahrenheit 451's firemen. The Exiles came from that fury, a tale of authors like Poe and Bierce exiled on Mars, their books burned on Earth. Written in 1950, it sprang from Bradbury's rage at censorship, inspired by his love for weird tales pulps and his fear of sanitized future. Behind the scenes, Doubleday paid him $750 for the book, but Bradbury refused Hollywood cash to keep his vision pure. The story, often overlooked, is Bradbury at his most defiant. Literary ghosts fighting for survival. It's a window into what drove him, the fear that erasing stories erases souls, a theme that echoed his 1960s support for civil rights, seeing banned books as banned voices. Let's join the Exiles. Their eyes were fire, and their breath flamed out the witches' mouths as they bent to probe the cauldron with greasy stick and bony finger. When shall we three meet again, in thunder, lightning, or in rain? They danced drunkenly on the shore of an empty sea, fouling the air with their three tongues and burning it with their cat's eyes, malevolently a-glitter. Round about the cauldron go, in the poison's entrails throw, double, double, toil and trouble, fire burn and cauldron bubble. They paused and cast a glance about. Where's the crystal? Where's the needles? Here! Good. Is the yellow wax sticking? Yes! Pour it in the iron mold. Is the wax figure done? They shaped it like molasses adrip on their green hands. Shove the needle through the heart. The crystal, fetch it from the tarot bag. Dust it off. Have a look. They bent to the crystal, their faces white. See, see, see! A rocket ship moved through space from the planet Earth to the planet Mars. On the rocket ship, men were dying. The captain raised his head tiredly. We'll have to use the morphine. But, Captain, you see yourself this man's condition. The captain lifted the wool blanket. The man restrained beneath the wet sheet moved and groaned. The air was full of sulphurous thunder. I saw it. I saw it. The man opened his eyes and stared at the port where there were only black spaces, reeling stars. Earth far removed and the planet Mars rising large and red. I saw it. A bat. A huge thing. A bat with a man's face spread over the front port, fluttering, fluttering it, fluttering. Pulse? Asked the captain. The orderly measured it. 130. And you can't go on with that. Use the morphine. Come along, Smith. They moved away. Suddenly the floor plates were laced with bone and white skulls that screamed. The captain did not dare look down, and over the screaming he said, "Is this where Perth is?" turning in at a hatch. A white smocked surgeon stepped away from a body. "I just don't understand it. How did Perth die?" "We don't know, Captain. It wasn't his heart, his brain, or shock. He just died." The captain felt the doctor's wrist, which changed to a hissing snake and bit him. The captain did not flinch. "Take care of yourself. You've a pulse too." The doctor nodded. First complained of pains, needles, he said, in his wrists and legs. Said he felt like wax, melting. He fell. I helped him up. He cried like a child. Said he had a silver needle in his heart. He died. Here he is. We can repeat the autopsy for you. Everything's physically normal. That's impossible. He died of something. The captain walked to a port. He smelled of menthol and iodine and green soap on his polished and manicured hands. His white teeth were dentrified, and his ears scoured to a pinkness, as were his cheeks. His uniform was the color of new salt, and his boots were black mirrors shining below him. His crisp, crew-cut hair smelled of sharp alcohol. Even his breath was sharp and new and clean. There was no spot to him. He was a fresh instrument, honed and ready, still hot from the surgeon's oven. The men with him were from the same mold. One expected huge brass keys spiraling slowly from their backs. They were expensive, talented, well-oiled toys, obedient and quick. The captain watched the planet Mars grow very large in space. "We'll be landing in an hour on that damn place. Smith, did you see any bats or have any other nightmares?" "Yes, sir. A month before our rocket took off from New York, sir. White rats biting my neck, drinking my blood. I didn't tell. I was afraid you wouldn't let me come on this trip." "Never mind," sighed the captain. "I had had dreams too. In all my 50 years, I'd never had a dream until that week before we took off from Earth. And then every night I dreamed I was a white wolf, caught on a snowy hill, shot with a silver bullet, buried with a stake in my heart." He moved his head towards Mars. "Do you think, Smith, they know we're coming?" "We don't know if there are Martian people, sir." "Don't we? They've been frightening us off 8 weeks ago before we started. They've killed Pearce and Reynolds now. Yesterday they made Crinville go blind. How? I don't know. Bats, needles, dreams, men dying for no reason. I'd call it witchcraft any other day. But this is the year 2120, Smith. We're rational men. This all can't be happening. But it is. Whoever they are, with their needles and their bats, they'll try to finish us all." He swung about. "Smith, fetch those books from my file. I want them when they land." 200 books were placed on the rocket deck. "Thank you, Smith. Have you glanced at them? I think I'm insane." "Perhaps. It's a crazy hunch. At the last moment, I ordered these books from a historical museum. Because of my dreams. 20 nights I was stabbed, butchered, and screaming bat pinned to a surgical mat, and the thing rotting underground in a black box. Bad, wicked dreams. Our whole crew dreamed of witch things and weird things, vampires and phantoms, things they couldn't know anything about. Why? Because books on such ghastly subjects were destroyed a century ago, by law. Forbidden for anyone to own the grisly volumes. These books you see here are the last copies, kept for historical purposes in locked museum vaults." Smith bent to read the dusty titles. "Tales of Mystery and Imagination" by Edgar Allan Poe. "Dracula" by Bram Stoker. "Frankenstein" by Mary Shelley. "Return of the Screw" by Henry James. "The Legend of Sleepy Hollow" by Washington Irving. "Rappaccini's Daughter" by Nathaniel Hawthorne. "An Occurrence at Owl Creek Bridge" by Ambrose Bierce. "Alice in Wonderland" by Lewis Carroll. "The Willows" by Algernon Blackwood. "The Wizard of Oz" by L. Frank Baum. "The Weird Shadow over Innsmouth" by H. P. Lovecraft, and more. Books by Walter de la Mare, Wakefield, Harvey, Wells, Asquith, Huxley. All forbidden authors, all burned in the same year that Halloween was outlawed and Christmas was banned. But, sir, what good are these to us on the rocket?" "I don't know," sighed the captain. "Yet." The three bags lifted the crystal where the captain's image flickered, his tiny voice tinkling out of the glass. "I don't know," sighed the captain. "Yet." The three witches glared redly into one another's faces. "We haven't much time," she said one. "Better warn them in the city. They'll want to know about the books. It doesn't look good. that fool of a captain. In an hour they'll land their rocket. The three bags shuddered and blinked up at the emerald city by the edge of the dry Martian sea. In its highest window a small man held a blood-red grape aside. He watched the wastelands where the three witches fed their cauldron and shaped their waxes. Farther along, 10,000 other bleak fires and laurel incenses, black tobacco smokes and fir weeds, cinnamons and bone dust rose soft as moths through the Martian night. The man counted the angry, magical fires. Then, as the three witches stared, he turned. The crimson drape, released, fell, causing the distant portal to wink like the yellow eye. Mr. Edgar Allan Poe stood in the tower window, a faint vapor of spirits upon his breath. Katie's friends are busy tonight, he said, seeing the witches far below. A voice behind him said, I saw Will Shakespeare at the shore earlier, whipping them on. All along the sea, Shakespeare's army alone tonight, number 1,000, three witches, Oberon, Hamlet's father, Puck, all of them, thousands. Good Lord, a regular sea of people. Good William. Poe turned. He let the crimson drape fall shut. He stood for a moment to observe the raw stone room, the black-timbered table, the candle flame, the other man, Mr. Ambrose Bierce, sitting very idly there, lighting matches and watching them burn down, whistling under his breath now and then laughing to himself. We'll have to tell Mr. Dickens now, said Mr. Poe. We've put it off too long. It's a matter of hours. Would you go down to his room with me, Bierce? Bierce glanced up merrily. I've just been thinking what'll happen to us. If we can't kill the rocket men off, frighten them away, then we'll have to leave, of course. We'll go on to Jupiter, and when they come to Jupiter, we'll go on to Saturn. And when they come to Saturn, we'll go to Uranus or Neptune, and then on out to Pluto. Where then? Mr. Poe's face was weary. There were fire coals remaining, fading, in his eyes, and a sad wildness in the way he talked, and the uselessness of his hands, and the way his hair fell lankly over his amazing white brow. He was like a Satan of some lost dark cause, a general arrived from a derelict invasion. His silky, soft, black mustache was worn away by his musing lips. He was so small his brow seemed to float, vast and phosphorescent, by itself in the dark room. We have the advantages of superior forms of travel, he said. We can always hope for one of their atomic wars, disillusion, the dark ages come again, return to superstition. We could go back then to Earth, all of us, in one night. Mr. Poe's black eyes brooded under his round and luminant brow. He gazed at the ceiling. So they're coming to ruin this world too. They won't leave anything undefiled, will they? Does the wolf pack stop until it's killed its prey and eaten the guts? Should be quite a war. I shall sit on the sidelines and be the scorekeeper. So many Earthmen boiled in oil, so many misfound and the bottles burnt, so many Earthmen stabbed with needles, so many Red Death put to flight by a battery of hypodermic syringes. Ha! Poe swayed angrily, faintly, drunk with wine. What did we do? Be with us, Bierce, in the name of God. Did we have a fair trial before a company of literary critics? No. Our books were plucked up by neat, sterile surgeons' fires and flung into vats to boil to be killed of all their mortuary germs. Damn them all. I find their situation amusing, said Bierce. They were interrupted by a hysterical shout from the tower stair. Mr. Poe! Mr. Bierce! Yes, we're coming. Poe and Bierce descended to find a man gasping against the stone passage wall. Have you heard the news? He cried immediately, clawing at them like a man about to fall over a cliff. In an hour they'll land. They're bringing books with them. Old books, the witches said. What are you doing in a tower at a time like this? Why aren't you acting? Poe said, We're doing everything we can, Blackwood. You're new to all this. Come along. We're going to Mr. Charles Dickens' place. To contemplate our doom, our black doom, said Mr. Bierce with a wink. They moved down the echoing throats of the castle, level after dim green level, down in mustiness and decay, and spiders and dreamlike webbing. Don't worry, said Poe, his brow like a huge white lamp before them, descending, sinking. All along the Dead Sea tonight I've called the others. Your friend and mine, Blackwood. Bierce, they're all here. The animals and the old women and the tall men with the sharp white teeth. The traps are waiting, the pits, yes, and the pendulum. The Red Death. But here, he laughed quietly. Yes, even the Red Death. I never thought the time would come when a thing like the Red Death would actually be. But they asked for it, and they shall have it. But are we strong enough? Wondered Blackwood. How strong is strong? They won't be prepared for us, at least. They haven't the imagination. Those clean young rocket men with their antiseptic bloomers and fishbowl helmets with their new religion. About their necks, on gold chains, scalpels. On their heads, a diadem of microscopes. and their holy fingers steaming incense herbs, which in reality are only germicidal ovens for steaming out superstition. The names Poe, Bierce, Hawthorne, Blackwood blasphemed to their clean lips. Outside the castle they advanced through a watery space, a tarn that was not a tarn, which misted before them like the stuff of nightmares. The air filled with winged sounds and a whirring, a motion of winds and blackness. Voices changed, figures swayed at campfires. Mr. Poe watched the needles knitting in the firelight, knitting pain and misery, knitting wickedness into wax marionettes, clay puppets. The cauldron smells of wild garlic and cayenne and saffron hissed up to fill the night with evil pungency. Get on with it, said Poe. I'll be back. All down the empty seashore black figures spindled and waned, grew up and blew in the black smoke on the sky. Bells rang in the mountain towers, and the cursed ravens spilled out with the bronze sounds and spun away to ashes. Over a lonely moor and into a small valley, Poe and Bierce hurried, and found themselves quite suddenly on a cobbled street. In cold, bleak, biting weather, with people stomping up and down stony courtyards to warm their feet, foggy withal, and candles flaring in the windows of offices and shops, where hang the Utah turkeys. At a distance some boys, all bundled up, snorting their pale breaths on the wintry air, were trilling, God rest ye merry gentlemen, while the immense tones of a great clock continuously sounded midnight. Children dashed by from the bakers with dinner all a-steam in their grubby fists, on trays and under silver bowls. At a sign which read Scrooge, Marley, and Dickens, Poe gave the Marley-faced knocker a rap, and from within, as the door propped open a few inches, a sudden gust of music almost swept them into a dance. And there, beyond the shoulder of the man who was sticking a goatee and mustaches at them, was Mr. Fezziwig, clapping his hands, and Mrs. Fezziwig, one vast substantial smile, dancing and colliding with other merrymakers, while the fiddle chirped and laughter rang about a table like chandelier crystals given a sudden push of wind. The large table was heaped with brawn and turkey and holly and geese, with mince pies, suckling pigs, wreaths of sausages, oranges, and apples. And there was Bob Cratchit and Little Dorrit and Tiny Tim and Mr. Fagin himself, and a man who looked as if he might be an undigested bit of beef, a blot of mustard, a crumb of cheese, a fragment of an underdone potato. Who else but Mr. Marley, chains and all, while the wine poured and the brown turkeys did their excellent best to steam. What do you want? Demanded Mr. Charles Dickens. We come to plead with you again, Charles. We need your help, said Poe. Help? Do you think I'd help you fight against those good men coming in the rocket? I don't belong here anyway. My books were burned by mistake. I'm no supernaturalist, no writer of horrors and terrors like you, Poe. You, Bierce, or the others. I'll have nothing to do with you terrible people. You're a persuasive talker, reasoned Poe. You could go to meet the rocket men, lull them, lull their suspicions, and then we could take care of them. Mr. Dickens eyed the folds of the black cape which hid Poe's hands. From it, smiling, Poe drew forth a black cat. From one of our visitors. And for the others, Poe smiled again, well pleased. The premature burial? You're a grim man, Mr. Poe. I'm a frightened and angry man. I am a god, Mr. Dickens, even as you are a god, even as we are all gods, and our inventions, our people, if you wish, have not only been threatened, but banished and burned, torn up and censored, ruined and done away with. The worlds we created are falling into ruin. Even gods must fight. So? Mr. Dickens tilted his head, impatient to return to the party. The music? The food? Perhaps you can explain why we're here. How did we come here? War begets war. Destruction begets destruction. On Earth, a century ago in the year 2020, they outlawed our books. Oh, what a horrible thing to destroy our literary creations that way. It summoned us out of what? Death? The beyond? I don't like abstract things. I don't know. I only know that our worlds and our creations called us, and we tried to save them, and the only saving thing we could do was wait out the century here on Mars, hoping Earth might overweight itself with these scientists and their doubtings. But now they're coming to clean us out of here, us and our dark things, and all the alchemists, witches, vampires, and weird things that, one by one, retreated across space as science made inroads through every country on Earth, and finally left no alternative at all but Exodus. You must help us. You have a good speaking manner. We need you. I repeat, I am not of you. I don't approve of you and the others, cried Dickens angrily. I was no player with witches and vampires and midnight things. What of a Christmas Carol? Ridiculous. One story. Oh, I wrote a few others about ghosts, perhaps. But what of that? My basic quirks had none of that nonsense. Mistaken or not, they grouped you with us. They destroyed your books, your worlds too. You must hate them, Mr. Dickens. I admit they're stupid and rude, but that is all. Good day. Let Mr. Marley come at least. No. The door slammed. As Poe turned away down the street, skimming over the frosty ground, the coachman played a lively air on a bugle. Came a great coach, out of which Cherry Red, laughing and singing, called the Pickwickens, banging on the door, shouting Merry Christmas good and loud, when the door was opened by the fat boy. Mr. Poe hurried along the midnight shore of the dry sea. By fires and smoke he hesitated, to shout orders, to check the bubbling cauldrons, the poisons, and the shocked pentagrams. Good, he said, and ran on. Fine, he shouted, and ran again. People joined him and ran with him. Here were Mr. Coppard and Mr. Mouchin running with him now, and they were hating serpents and angry demons and fire-bronze dragons and spiting vipers and trembling witches like the bards and nettles and thorns, and all the vile flotsam and jetsam of the retreating sea of imagination, left on the melancholy shore, whining and frothing and spitting. Mr. Mouchin stopped. He sat like a child on the cold sand. He began to sob. They tried to soothe him, but he would not listen. I just thought, he said, what happens to us on the day when the last copies of our books are destroyed? The air whirled. Don't speak of it. We must, wailed Mr. Mouchin. Now, as the rocket comes down on you, Mr. Poe, you, Coppard, you, Bierce, all you grow faint, like wood smoke, blowing away, your faces melt. Death, real death for all of us. We exist only through Earth's sufferance. If a final edict tonight destroyed our last few works, we'd be like lights put out. Coppard brooded gently. I wonder who I am. In what Earth mind tonight do I exist? Some African hut? Some hermit reading my tales? Is he the lonely candle in the wind of time and science? The flickering orb maintaining me here in rebellious exile? Is it him, or some boy in a discarded attic finding me only just in time? Oh, last night I felt ill, ill to the marrows of me. For there is a body of the soul as well as the body of the body, and this soul body shed in all of its glowing parts, and last night I felt myself a candle guttering, when suddenly I sprang up, given new light, as some child sneezing with dust, and some yellow garret on earth once more found a warm, time-spec copy of me, and so I am given a short respite. The door banged wide and a little, but by the shore. A thin, short man, with flesh hanging from him in folds, stepped out, and paying no attention to the others, sat down and stared into his clenched fist. There's the one I'm sorry for, whispered Blackwood. Look at him, dying away. He was once more real than we, who were men. They took him, a skeleton thought, and clothed him in centuries of pink flesh and snow beard, and red velvet suit and black boot, made him reindeers, tinsel, holly, and after centuries of manufacturing him, they drowned in a vat of Lysol, you might say. The men were silent. What must it be on earth, wondered Poe, without Christmas? No hot chestnuts, no tree, no ornaments of drums or candles, nothing. Nothing but the snow and the wind and the lonely factual people. They all looked at the thin little old man with the scraggly beard and faded red velvet suit. Have you heard his story? I can imagine it. The glitter-eyed psychiatrist, the clever sociologist, the resentful froth-mouthed educationalist, the antiseptic parents. A regrettable situation, said Bierce, smiling, for the Yuletide merchants who, towards the last there, as I recall, were beginning to put up holly and sing Noel the day before Halloween. With any luck at all this year, they might have started on Labor Day. Bierce did not continue. He fell forward with a sigh, and as he lay upon the ground he had time to say only, how interesting. And then, as they all watched, horrified, his body burned into blue dust and charred bone, the ashes of which fled through the air in black tatters. Bierce! Bierce! Gone. His last book gone. Someone on earth just now burned it. God rest him. Nothing of him left now. For what are we but books? And when those are gone, nothing to be seen. A rushing sound filled the sky. They cried out, terrified, and looked up. In the sky, dazzling it with sizzling fire clouds, was the rocket. Around the men on the seashore, lanterns bobbed. There was squealing and bubbling and odor of cooked spells, candle-eyed pumpkins lifted in a cold, clear air, thin fingers clenched into fists, and a witch screamed from her withered mouth. Ship, ship, break, fall, ship, burn all, crack, flake, shake, melt. Mummy dust cat pelt. Time to go, murmured Blackwood. On to Jupiter, on to Saturn, or Pluto. Run away? Shouted Poe in the wind. Never! I'm a tired old man. Poe gazed into the old man's face and believed him. He climbed atop a huge boulder and faced the 10,000 gray shadows and green lights and yellow eyes on the hissing wind. The powders! He shouted. A thick, hot smell of bitter almond, civet, cumin, worm seed, and orris. The rocket came down, steadily down, with the shriek of a damned spirit. Poe raged at it. He flung his fists up, and the orchestra of heat and smell and hatred answered in symphony. Like stripped tree fragments, bats flew upward. Burning hearts, flung like missiles, burst into bloody fireworks on the singed air. Down, down, relentlessly down, like a pendulum the rocket came, and Poe howled furiously, and shrank back with every sweep and sweep of the rocket cutting and ravening the air. All the Dead Sea seemed a pit in which trapped they waited the sinking of the dread machinery, the glistening axe. They were people under the avalanche. The snakes! Screamed Poe, and luminous serpentines of undulant green hurtled towards the rocket. But it came down, a sweep, a fire, a motion, and it lay panting out exhaustions of red plumage on the sand a mile away. At it! Shrieked Poe. The plan's changed. Only one chance. Run! At it! At it! Drown them with our bodies! Kill them! And as if he had commanded a violent sea to change its course, to suck itself free from primeval beds, the whirl and savage of gouts of fire spread and ran like winds and rain and stark lightning over the sea sands, down empty river deltas, shadowing and screaming, whistling and whining, sputtering and coalescing towards the rocket, which, extinguished, lay like a clean metal torch in the farthest hollow. As if a great charred cauldron of sparkling lava had been overturned, the boiling people and snapping animals churned down the dry fathoms. Kill them! Screamed Poe, running. The rocketmen leaped out of their ship, guns ready. They stalked about, sniffing the air like hounds. They saw nothing. They relaxed. The captain stepped forth last. He had sharp commands. Wood was gathered, kindled, and a fire leapt up in an instant. The captain beckoned his men into a half circle about him. A new world, he said, forcing himself to speak deliberately, though he glanced nervously now and again over his shoulder at the empty sea. The old world left behind, a new start, one more symbolic than what we have here dedicated ourselves all the more firmly to science and progress. He nodded crisply to his lieutenant. The books. Firelight limned the faded gilded titles. The Willows, The Outsider, Behold, The Dreamer, Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, The Land of Oz, Pullisadar, The Land That Time Forgot, A Midsummer Night's Dream, and the monstrous names of Machen and Edgar Allan Poe and Cabell and Dunsey and Blackwood and Lewis Carroll. The names, the old names, the evil names. A new world, with a gesture we burn the last of the old. Captain ripped pages from the books. Leaf by seared leaf, he fed them into the fire. A scream. Leaping back, the men stared beyond the firelight at the edges of the encroaching and uninhabited sea. Another scream. A high and wailing thing, like the death of a dragon and the thrashing of a bronze whale left gasping when the waters of a leviathan sea drain down the shingles and evaporate. It was the sound of air rushing in to fill a vacuum, where a moment before there had been something. The captain neatly disposed of the last book by putting it into the fire. The air stopped quivering. Silence. The rocketman leaned and listened. Captain, did you hear it? No. Like a wave, sir, on the sea bottom. I thought I saw something. Over there, a black wave, big, running at us. You were mistaken. There, sir. What? See? There? The city, way over the green city near the lake. It's splitting in half. It's falling. Men squinted and shuffled forward. Smith stood trembling among them. He put his hand to his head as if finding thought there. I remember, yes, now I do, a long time back, when I was a child, a book I read, a story. Oz, I think it was. Yes, Oz, the Emerald City of Oz. Oz? Never heard of it. Yes, Oz, that's what it was. I saw it just now, like in the story. I saw it fall. Smith! Yes, sir? Report for psychoanalysis tomorrow. Yes, sir. A brisk salute. Be careful. Men tiptoed, guns alert, beyond the ship's aseptic light to gaze at the long sea and the low hills. Why? Whispered Smith, disappointed. There's no one here at all, is there? No one here at all. The wind blew sand over his shoes, whining. That was The Exiles, a story that fights from Ray Bradbury's fury at book burning. In 1950, Bradbury was 30, living in Venice, California, typing while Marguerite worked, the McCarthy era blacklist chilling Hollywood. It lampoons his career, pulp heroes banished like his own rejected scripts, his pulp roots maturing into defenses of imagination. Writing this in 1950, he drew from Weird Tales and his Carnival Love, aiming to show how erasing stories erases humanity. Behind the scenes, Doubleday paid him $750 for the book, a fortune then, but Bradbury refused Hollywood cash to keep his business pure. To when no one what drove him, the fear that censorship kills the soul, a theme that deepened with civil rights struggles in the 1960s. Bradbury's stories of exiled voices paralleled the movement's fight against silenced minorities. Ray Bradbury, the visionary behind The Exiles, turned banned books into a battle for imagination. This story asks, what dies when stories are burned? Join us next time for SL Tonight as we keep unearthing Bradbury's unseen visions. And before we go good night, I have here a reading of Ambrose Bierce's poem, The Passing Show. Sometimes also titled The Dance of Death. Ambrose Bierce. I saw the dead, a merry crew, in silks and satins fine, a-dancing to the violin at famous number 9. The fiddler was a skeleton, his bow a thigh-bone white, the merrymakers every one, he died the previous night. They waltzed and glided, turned and bowed, with never a word to say, and every time the music stopped, they all were dead again. I asked a ghostly dame the cause of all this strange delight. She answered with a rattling laugh, we're dead, and it's all right. And with that, I bid you good night.
The night was tattooed skin, and every story bled. We stood in the African veldt where lions fed on some bleach bone. Heard the children call us home while nursery walls burned alone. Flew the silver rocket fire to a Venus drowned in endless rain. Watch the sun come out 1 hour, then never shine again. 0 hour came at 7. The invasion no one heard. Marionettes it took the parents while the kids never said a word. On Mars the highways rolled like rivers under crimson dust. The last Earth rocket left us ghost in a world that turned to rust. These are the illustrated man's tales, ink that moves when the moonlight fails. From kaleidoscope eyes to the long cold years, every tattoo is a memory, every memory a tear. We saw the city wait 1,000,000 years. censorship.
And in the end, the illustrated man looked down at his own chest.
Saw the prologue become epilogue. The final tattoo was dead.
These were the illustrated man's tales, living ink that screams and never pales. From the belt to Venus, Mars, to the million-year town, every story we live is still moving now. Look close. The pictures are still moving.